Welcome to the Florida Citizens Alliance Lee County Board of County Commissioners District 1 Candidate Forum. We're really pleased to be able to present this to you. Our goal at the Florida Citizens Alliance is to help voters know the candidates, to understand the issues that are important to all of us, and to understand the principles that guide the candidates' decision making. I'm Rick Stevens, one of the managing directors of the Florida Citizens Alliance. We're a 501c3 nonpartisan alliance. We focus primarily on improving K through 12 education in Florida, but as you can tell, we also work to educate ourselves and the voters when it comes to important decisions. And so we plan today to bring to you a forum of the two candidates that qualified for the ballot in the August 18th primary for Lee County Board of County Commissioners, District 1. Unfortunately, one of the candidates was not able to join us. There's a bit of a family problem going on, and he said he was not able to do that. So instead of a forum, we're going to go ahead and introduce you to the other candidate who was able to join us, and we'll have an interview with him. Then that'll give you an insight into his thinking, his position on the issues, and all of the things that will help you as a voter make a better decision. I want to introduce our moderator, who now becomes our interviewer. She's going to join us and help handle the candidate part of that. The Florida Citizens Alliance chooses independent moderators. We ask them to ask the questions that they choose. We don't tell them what questions to ask or what questions not to ask. We just give them the opportunity to help us get to know the candidates better. Our moderator today is Christina Heuser from Collier County. She's an attorney there and well-versed on all of the issues and principles that affect Southwest Florida, but she's not involved in this race, so she's an excellent candidate as a moderator. Although she's not a candidate, she's a candidate for moderator, and we're really glad to have her join us for that. So Christina, welcome. We're going to turn this time over to you and give you the opportunity to have a conversation with Michael Drycorn, who is joining us as one of the candidates for Lee County Board of Commission District 1.
Thank you, Pastor Rick, and good morning, Mr. Drycorn. Thanks for joining us this morning. We'd like to start out with giving you the opportunity to just introduce yourself and tell us why you decided to throw your hat in the ring for this race.
Sure. Good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for this opportunity to not only engage with the three of you, but I know your broader community. The Florida Citizens Alliance, I'm very familiar with your group, and I am a huge supporter of your efforts going way back when we were fighting the Common Core issues. I am a citizen advocate. I have for constitutional purposes, and have always been on the front line of engaging in civic activities that were appropriate, that needed to be defended, such as opting out of Common Core, standing up for Second Amendment rights, and doing the things that all good citizens should be doing to ensure the liberty and safety of our society. I'm running because I don't like bullies. Government has a tendency of being the biggest bully on the block. There are systems in our society that perpetuate the re-existence, perpetuating the same old people in the types of jobs or elected positions that are critical to managing our society going forward. And I want to be that icebreaker. I want to be the individual that the people of Lee County can elect and understand that I will be representing them. I work for them, and it's for and by the people. I'm a former military guy. I was an Army sergeant. I worked my way up through life with no handouts. Got a bachelor's in professional aeronautics, a master's in management, a doctorate from George Washington in human resource and organizational development, a business certificate from Darden School of Business. I've ran as an executive of very large Fortune 100 companies, moved business all over the world, and it's time to move business back to Lee County. I am a STEM guy: science, technology, engineering, and management, or mathematics. And I think that not only Lee County, but all of Southwest Florida is ripe for innovative technologies that are green, that fit our ecology, and will fit our intelligent growth. We don't need out of control growth. We need intelligent growth. And to pay for growth, you need good jobs. And I think bringing in the right jobs into our area, and even helping those companies that are here organically grow to fill a service industry that will diversify our economy, is the right thing to do. That's in a nutshell.
Well, thank you for that, and thank you for your service to our country. Can you please tell us what your understanding of your role as county commissioner is in light of the federal and state constitutions?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, the Constitution is quite clear on the limitations to government. Article 1, Section 8 defines the responsibilities of the federal government. The 10th Amendment essentially gives the powers to the states in certain areas that are not already addressed in Article 1, Section 8. And the most important is the 9th Amendment, that all rights are preserved by the people. So the government doesn't have any rights, contrary to popular conversations that are going on, specifically here in 2020. We, the people, have the rights, and when the government tries to infringe upon them, it's usually at the local level. Particularly lately, it's at the local level. I believe we need to have champions at all municipal levels and all county levels to defend the liberties of our citizens. That is probably first and paramount, because without our liberties, we can't address things like clean water, jobs, and education. So I would say my number one job as a county commissioner is to be a liberty fighter, to ensure that there is no infringement on our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, and just being what made America great, constitutional conservatives.
Thank you for that. And what is your understanding of the source of the individual rights and liberties that you speak of?
There's only one source, it's God. God is the one that gave us all of our rights. It's a social construction that limitates those, and that social construction can either be good government or tyranny.
Speaking of the Constitution, we hear many people refer to it as a living, breathing document. Do you concur with this view, and why or why not?
Yeah, look, so our founders were very smart men. Despite and contrary to what everybody's saying here in 2020, our founders were very intelligent men, and the words that they used had meaning. Now, 200 and X years later, that meaning, those words might have different meaning today, but when we look at the Constitution, we must look at it how it was originally written and the context in which the words were used then. Anything other than that is a dilution, and it's an illusion of what the requirements were. So I'm an originalist. I go back to the way it was written, the way the words were meant back then, in order for us to interpret it.
Thank you. Currently, Lee County Board of Commissioners opens with prayer. Do you support continuing this practice, and why or why not?
Yeah, prayer very closely followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, with everybody standing. If they're former military and have a hat on, they can salute. If you're not, you can put your hand over your heart. But the reality is without God in our society, we are a godless society, and we're doomed. So I am a very strong supporter of ensuring that every public meeting starts with prayer.
Now I'd like to shift a little bit and get into some current events. I'm sure you've heard about the controversy with Alfie Oaks and the Lee County School District canceling its contract with Oaks Farms. Have you heard about that?
Well, not only Collier, but also Lee County.
Yes, if I said Collier, I meant Lee, I apologize.
Yeah, I feel for Alfie. Matter of fact, I've written Alfie personal emails in support. I am adamantly against the arbitrary nature that the board took on this. I think they have legal consequences that they still have to face in this regard. In no way shall a government entity have the ability to interfere with an individual's commerce based on a different perspective of what morality is or what belief is, and just frankly infringe on somebody's First Amendment.
We also hear a lot in the news about the Black Lives Matter movement. Can you share with us your perspective on that movement, and then also on their push to defund the police?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, so this is an emotional thing for most people. They don't get past the title of the group. and they say, of course, Black Lives Matter. Well, the reality is all lives matter. I'm going to focus on the organization, not the words. The organization is a Marxist socialist group aimed at undermining our way of life in America. I do not support that organization. If they tried to paint their name on the streets of Lee County, they would be stopped. If they're successful, we will remove it. We will not tolerate any violence in demonstrations. Absolutely, I support First Amendment rights to get out and protest. Bring your grievances to government in a civilized way. And at the moment that you step over the line and attack people who are of a different view, who are also exercising their First Amendment, or attack our police officers or sheriff's deputies, the Board of County Commissioners, as me as one of the commissioners, it would certainly champion ensuring that that would be quashed immediately. There shall be no looting. There shall be no rioting in the streets of Lee County. We'd also ensure that we would provide mutual aid to any of the regional areas that where unrest may occur and they may not have the resources that Lee County has. As far as defunding, that's insanity. It's absolute insanity. Without some ability to ensure that those that wish us harm are held accountable and stopped, our society would be in a death row spiral down to the abyss. Ain't gonna happen on my watch. Our sheriff's department is currently one of the best funded sheriff's department in the entire state. There needs to be some reflection on how money is currently being spent in the sheriff's department. I would like to see many more boots on the ground, less administrative staff, more boots on the ground, and let's make sure that we're getting involved as proactively as possible, because an ounce of prevention is worth a ton of remedy.
Another hot item in the news these days is coronavirus. And we see many localities considering mandatory mask ordinances. What is your view on such an ordinance? Would you support something like that if you were on the Board of County Commissioners?
I understand the emotion again. I understand why people are being polarized one way or the other. But the emotion is being stoked by fear, and that fear is being created by a certain group, of a political group, as well as the media. So if you look at the numbers, and I'm a numbers guy, I've got a doctorate, I do a lot of research, a lot of forensic review, and I've read the 7 seminal reports that the CDC utilizes to found its basis for making this guideline of wearing masks. Not one of them talks about the efficacy of masks and the aerial transmission of this novel virus. They're all anecdotal footnotes in all 7 of those articles. So the CDC is just utilizing their administrative position to provide a guideline that intuitively sounds that it would make sense. However, it's without authority. It's a guideline, it's subjective. And now that you've got government entities that are latching on saying our basis for restricting freedom is the CDC guideline. And if you look at the guideline, it lacks integrity and basis and authority. These governmental agencies that are making those assertions are baseless and are putting themselves and exposing themselves out to all kinds of liability. The Texas Supreme Court recently overruled certain municipalities for overreach in this area. I would not support mandates. It makes sense for those people who are at risk. My wife is at risk. But that's personal responsibility. That's personal accountability. You do not quarantine the healthy. You do not infringe upon the healthy. You identify where the risk is, you manage the risk.
Thank you. I've also heard in the news a push to rename Lee County. I don't know if you've heard about this, but there's a push to rename it Trump County. So I'd like to hear your opinion on that. But besides that, just generally this push to rename everything that some people may find offensive, taking down statues and monuments. Can you share your perspective on that, please?
I heard the Trump County the other night, and I thought it was cute. But remember, we name counties, municipalities, not for the moment, but for the historical relevance and importance. And while President Trump might be a nameable city in the future, he's still a sitting president. And we don't even name aircraft carriers after sitting presidents. I wouldn't want to break that standard. But it's certainly an option better than some of the other ones I've heard. But that being said, Lee County is Lee County. It shall not change its name. And we can get into the whole economics of not wanting to do that, but it's you know, there's pride in this community. A lot of people are not from here, and they don't understand that people that have been here for 5, 6, 7 generations have deep pride in where they live. And for people to come in with different perspectives and different interpretations of what the founding person, generally what he stood for, who was a very successful diplomat after the Civil War, did many wonderful things after the Civil War, and even before. He was a patriot to his state. And remember, we are a republic. And a republic is 50 states. He was a patriot to his state, period. And so I would not ever diminish the culture, our history of Lee County. I would leave the portrait where it stands, and I would leave the bus where it is, and I would leave the name on the stationery and the welcome mat to our county.
I'm sure you've also heard of a recent Supreme Court case in which the court expanded the definition of gender to include sexual orientation and sexual identity. In a similar local anti-discrimination ordinance, would you support adding sexual orientation and or gender identity as protected classes?
So I have friends that are of other persuasion. So I'm gay and lesbian. I don't know if I have any transsexual friends, but I do have gay and lesbian friends. And you know, they're good people. They're really good people. And some will argue it's not a choice. Biologically, they're that way. The reality is it's not a defining characteristic as what the provisions of that protection law was meant for. And I understand the Supreme Court has expanded it, but I don't see a need at the local level to expand definitions, because that is a slippery slope. You can expand it into other areas that we may not want to. And, you know, I see here in 2020 a lot of slippery slope being slid down. And I'm finding that the more we give in as a constitutional conservative, you know, the more concessions, because we're really good people and we're willing to discuss things and we're willing to compromise. But the more we compromise, the more they take. And I think we need to just put the stick in the sand, say this is who we are as a society. Understand that everybody has their ability to live their life in the pursuit of happiness in any way they want. But they don't, all that pursuit, those actions are not all protected.
If you were elected Lee County Commissioner, could the citizens count on you to oppose all proposed tax increases, or alternatively, what is your view on taxes?
Yeah, so I mean, we pay a lot of taxes already. So I would not raise taxes, and that includes, I would ensure that we roll back every year. Now, I will add a caveat. There's 2 caveats. If there is a national emergency, and we are about to lose all ability to fund our law enforcement, we're going to lose all ability to run our ambulances. We're going to lose all ability to provide for our fire districts. That's where the caveat would be, that we're going to have to suck it up and do some things. And can that ever happen? Well, it happened on Pine Island. During the big recession, our ad valorem rates went way down, and our fire district almost went bankrupt. And we were at the point where we were not able to run response to calls anymore. That would be my caveat, is public safety. But before you get there, you apply all your business acumen. You take all the fat off of every other program and move all your resources over to the essential resource, your public safety. The other caveat is the growth. We're currently at 769,000 people in Lee County. We're going to be 1 million people by 2029. And as new people come in, we're going to need more infrastructure. And the question is, do we allow the new people to benefit from the infrastructure that's existing? And then do we require that the people that have been here for however long to pay for all new additional infrastructure, which they're not requiring? It's the new development that does. And how does that get paid? I'm more of in a position that growth needs to pay for growth, and there is an impact fee. And fees, any fee is a tax. I get that. But it's if I'm going to go to the fast food store and get me something to eat, I got to pay for it. And it's the same thing with certain utilities. I live on a dirt road. I know at some point it's going to get paved. I'm going to have to pay for it. And I don't expect my neighbor 5 miles down the road to have to pay for it.
So just to make sure I understand what you're saying, you would hold the line on taxes barring a catastrophic event, but you do support impact fees for new developments and new residents?
Wonderful summary. Yes.
Along those lines, what is your view on the role of the county in either subsidizing affordable housing or incentivizing affordable housing?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not a handout guy, and I'll tell you, my mom was a single mom. I know what a food stamp looks like before they had the cards. And it was the most embarrassing thing to go to the supermarket and watch mom pull out the coupon book and pay it to register. It was necessary because of where we were and in our life. So I do believe in hands up, but not hands out. And with housing, we've got some challenges with regards to the essential workers, for one, firefighters, teachers, police officers. And while they can afford their rent, which is in many cases is more expensive than a mortgage, they have a hard time getting that down payment and paying for their closing fees. Well, and a lot of people aren't familiar with it, there's a Sandusky Trust Fund, which already collects monies at closing based on fees that qualified individuals can apply for, and essentially have their closing costs and partially their down payment assisted, if not completely paid for. I would continue to support that. On the topic of affordable housing, there's many things that we can do with our land use planning. We can start talking about mixed use and greater density in certain areas so that we can reduce the cost of living so that people don't have to commute as far. There's a lot of out of the box type thinking that can occur without creating a project. I am not in support of creating projects, because our history with projects, whether it's here in Lee County or anywhere in the country, is not good.
What is your understanding of the role of the Board of County Commissioners vis-a-vis the school board?
Yeah, it's been contentious, right? And both Keith and Pastor Rick know that there's reasons for the situation, the contentious situation that we've had, in particular with the content of what we're teaching our children, the curriculum, the testing. And so my characterization of how the two groups are today is very dysfunctional. Putting aside all of our historical differences, if you don't have leadership that can bring the constituents, the players to the table, then you're always going to be at a stalemate. I believe the county commission needs to be playing a more active role in the school district in many regards. And I would take on, first and foremost, to break the ice, the safety of our children. That's an easy one. We should not have kids being run over at school bus stops. We should not have bullying on the buses or in the schools. And while the kids are in school, we must assure their safety while they're there. So I think there's a lot that the county can do in partnership with the school board. my doctorate is an EDD, so I can certainly speak their language. And my former military gives me the perspective of situational awareness, and I can take a very pragmatic but yet leadership approach to bridging the gap between the two entities.
As you may or may not be aware, Florida Citizens Alliance has done a lot of work in identifying pornography, believe it or not, in material that is in the public schools. Would you support a resolution to the school board to remove pornography and age-inappropriate LGBTQ content from the schools?
Yeah, so the short answer first is absolutely, right? When it comes to anything other than education of the reading, writing, arithmetic, and American history and civics, right? The other stuff needs to be a discretionary thing from the parents, the church, the faith groups that they belong to. I don't want the government indoctrinating any child into these discretionary areas. And so I don't believe that the school district has that responsibility. And I'd go one further. I don't think they have the authority to do that. And as a county commissioner, I would be looking at every option to hold the school board accountable for removing anything that's lewd, anything that is provocative outside of the regular academic areas. I like to stimulate thought. I like to create critical thought and the ability for people to learn how to learn. But it needs to be within the four corners of education, not social indoctrination.
Would you support an ordinance banning immigration sanctuary cities within Lee County?
Well, that's the easiest one, right? So, I mean, I'm a man of the law. I mean, I support the Constitution. I support the laws that are enacting the Constitution. I don't support laws that are in violation of the Constitution. And when legislators try to give identity cards, driver's license to illegals, I think that's a violation of the law. It's a violation of the Constitution. I might have some dotted lines to make my connections there, but the reality is that the county, we need to ensure that we are America first. We are constitutionally valid and compliant, and we should not give any sanctuary, which means protection, to those that are here illegally. And I don't say this lightly. My father was an immigrant. So my father came over on a boat in 1957 and went through Ellis Island. And anybody that went through that process, their name is engraved on a memorial up there. His name's on there, as did my grandmother. So I grew up speaking more than one language. I understand the value of having a diverse culture, and frankly, that's what made America awesome. We just need to do it. We need to do it legally, and we need to make sure we have the right people that are here that contribute to our society. You know, when we first started with immigration in this country, we did have a vetting process, right? Some boats would sit out off the coast for months to make sure people were healthy before we'd let them on. And it wasn't just anybody can come in and become an American. The vacancy sign needs to be dimmed.
Last question. There's a newer concept for sanctuary counties, and that is sanctuary counties for the unborn. Would you champion an ordinance making Lee County a sanctuary county for the unborn?
Yeah, so that's a wonderful question, and I believe that life begins at conception. And every time I drive by one of those facilities, I'll leave them nameless. We know who they are. I almost cry because I know what's going on in there: genocide, murder. It's heartbreaking to know what goes on in there. I would support an ordinance that does not allow those organizations, those businesses, to have a business license here in Lee County. So the answer is, yeah, I would support that.
Thank you. Those are all the questions I have, but we'd love to give you the opportunity to just say anything else that you feel we may not have addressed today, or make any sort of closing statement.
Sure. I appreciate the opportunity again. It's this is one of the ways that we get out there and allow the voters to recognize who their champions are and who they're not. And we asked a lot of really important constitutional questions, and that's really what I stand for. I think when government steps outside of the Constitution, that's when we start running into problems in our society. You asked about sanctuary cities. I would make Lee County a sanctuary county for the Bill of Rights. When we talk about, we talked about abortion and other things. The reality is that the entirety of our Bill of Rights is under siege at this time. Whether it's the Second Amendment or the freedom of speech or the freedom to assemble. And things get creeped in, such as red flag laws, which are, in my mind, just totally unconstitutional. I would champion, and we already have a very weak Second Amendment sanctuary county ordinance, very weak. First thing I would do is strengthen that to reflect some of the ordinances that have been passed in Virginia that actually have teeth and are enforceable. Then I would champion an effort to expand that to the entire Bill of Rights so I could address some of these things, such as the red flag laws. So one of the things that I bring to the table is critical thought. Majority of my education was through Hard Knocks and had the opportunity to attend some awesome schools along the way. I never took time off to go be a full-time student, so I'm a parallel processor. I can walk and chew gum at the same time. I'm serving in the military, raising a family, and going to school, and I got it done. When I start something, I get it done. If I make a promise, I never break it. I promise to never disappoint the people of Lee County. I promise never to infringe upon their constitutional rights, and I promise never to economically damage them and cause them harm. And I promise to help them collectively, us, make Lee County awesome for generations to come.
Well,
and I would add, I do have a website. It's votedrycorn.com, and we're down to the last month of this election. August 18th is the big day, so please vote.
Thank you. Best wishes to you, Pastor Rick.
Well, thank you, Christina and Michael. It's been very helpful to hear your conversation and to understand Michael's principles and his views on the issues better. We thank you all for watching as well. We think this will really help you make a better decision when you go to vote. We have asked both candidates in this District 1 race to complete a couple of survey forms that will also give you some concrete information on their position on issues and how they view the United States Constitution. When we get those completed forms, we will post those on our website at flcaction.org, flcaction.org. That's the same place you went probably to find this video. We also invite you to learn more about the Florida Citizens Alliance and the solutions we bring to support improving education in Florida. We'd like to get better acquainted and encourage you to visit our website, goflca.com. That's goflca.com. And you can also visit the Florida Citizens Alliance Facebook page. So thanks again for joining us. We wish you all of the best. May God bless America during these challenging days, and especially may God bless you and your family. Thanks for joining us.